high humus and a really lot of organic material and a big change. So I guess it's a really good indicator to me of change, and that's when you can smell the texture. You know, if you have a comparison with like we're doing now, having a smell, and how's that smell to you? You know, you can smell a richness that goes with that, I'd imagine.
Yeah.
And you know, have a smell of another soil that's not quite there. You know, make your own comparisons and feel and know what's right for you. For me, that's what it's about. But it's not necessarily in all situations or in all categories.
Yeah.
But on most situations, yeah, that's a great indicator.
And in terms of designing carambola into a landscape system, the fruits fall to the ground quite a lot. Like they're very heavy bearing and they fall, and they're one of the types of fruits that attract fruit fly because they don't have a shelf life. They really start breaking down quite quickly. So chickens, if you plant it into a chicken yard or a system where you've got the animals around, they will eat it and eat the larvae that the flies sort of produce, lay eggs and grow from it. So you're providing like a high protein and the fruit fodder, I suppose, or chicken or poultry food, and you're dealing with the sort of fruit fly problem that occurs. More so than, say, if you have citrus, you know, they fall to the ground and they've got an outer coating, so they don't break down as quickly. You have time to, if you don't get there every day, you can sort of harvest them within a few days and not have that problem. Yeah, same as mulberries, they do really good in a chicken system.
You can also make vinegar from all the excess fruit if you don't have chooks.
Yeah.
Vinegar they've done a lot of studies on it, kills all bacteria. That's all I use for washing my dishes and stuff like that.
What percentage of vinegar with water that you make there? You make a solution up and have a drum that you use all the time there, Cal, don't you?
Yeah, I'll just stuff a bucket full, 2/3 full of the fruit, fill it full of water, put a screen on it, and let it ferment. And then when it all bubbles up, then you know you got vinegar, just have a little taste. Drain the liquid off and use it. Oh yeah, I dilute it 10-to-1 or something like that.
Yeah.
So you could just put the drum here, and then every couple of days just come and lift it up, put it straight in, and let it go.
Yeah. It's really important to take care of the excess fruit, because otherwise you'll just have fruit flies stinging everything.
So I guess an answer in your question there is, like, you know, start looking at the colour there from the extremity, you know, it's not as dark as, it's getting darker as to there, you know.
Yeah.
The difference there you can see is quite different, and to me that would be a lot to do with the fact that Billy's caring and putting a product on there. He could be putting a bit of excess mill mud, which is black to start with, which is ash that's burnt from the sugar cane out of the sugar mills. So
full of microorganisms. So
yeah, it's actually high in potash. Quite often you have things like nutgrass and that are love to soak up excess potassium and potash. Will actually start, you see it coming up there, and that's an indicator that you've actually probably got a little excessive there. Just doing a roll of utilising that. You could take that roll of saying, I've got nutgrass, what am I going to do about it? But if you actually let it go through its roll and process, quite often it'll actually become redundant once it's actually utilised that excess potash. It can be also an indicator of some waterlogging and some other issues as well, and it's quite a controversial weed.
You can eat the nut.
Yeah, and you can eat the nut. So, you know, you can turn that around as in turning it in from foe to friend, you know, in a blink of an eye.
a lot of free mulch. Get the cummer out.
Yeah.
Paper fig, all the different species of sandpaper fig, you can eat the fruit. And a lot of times, like in Australia, this one, if it tastes like cardboard, don't give up, because the one down 2 meters down there could be sweet as. And that's the difference in climate and habitat. It's pulling different things out of the soil, but you can eat them all. And also it's a fiber. So you can strip the bark off of these limbs and make fishing line or floss your teeth with it, because there's been done a lot of studies on the figs, and they're really high in antibacterial, antifungal, and it's really important, hygiene, to take care of your teeth. This is one of the better dental flosses. Also a toothbrush. So stop buying those plastic things that take 200,000 years to go back to the earth and kill every living thing. And if we took just the toothbrushes that we consume in 1 year, it'd be a mountain. And then that's the legacy we're leaving our children. Use sandpaper fig. It's everywhere in the bush and every habitat, from Sydney to Cooktown. It's on my VIP list. Also lantana while I'm at it, because I wanted to add that to it. They did a study. They paid somebody $1 million to do a study on lantana and find out if there's any other uses so that the farmers could use it and knock it back. Well, they only come up with one, toothbrush. It's antifungal, antibacterial, and it's everywhere. Just peel the bark off, spray it, and use it just like a toothbrush. Lantanas also, you can weave baskets from the roots. It's the quickest way I've seen people make fire. I've woven houses out of it, little huts, not houses, and packed it, did a wattle and dub. So you pack mud into the weaving of the lantana. Lantana starts to grow. And then you weave that back in until you've got a nest and nobody can even see you. They can be standing next to it. And I can be inside my little thing and nobody can even see me. And I love doing those kind of things. So lantana. You know, we've got a list this long of plants that the Australian government's got a war against. Well, guess what? We haven't got rid of one of them in 100 years. War doesn't work. You find out what its purpose is. Everything has purpose. There's no mistakes. So that's what it's all about. That's what Wayne's been talking about, Toddy and Blake. That's what it's all about. Everything has its use, and we just got to discover what that is and use it. Don't have a war against it. If we want the wars to stop in the world, we got to stop the war inside of ourselves, and that's how you do it.
To understand all of the characteristics of a plant is to build a relationship with it, to get to know it. So it's like meeting people, you know, you have that first meeting and you see what they look like and you converse and you find out a little bit, but it's not until you keep going back and interacting with that person that you get more deeper into an understanding. And it's the same with plants, you know. Even if you learn one thing the first time, that's enough to sort of go back and integrate and then come back to it again and learn more. You know, you don't need to know everything about a plant to put it in a garden, but as you have it in there, you interact with it more and you learn more as you go. So it's a journey and a process to build stronger relationships with it.
That's a really good point.
Yeah, it's one of the main strings. But the original people wanted some really strong string. This is where they got it, from the roots. From the roots, they take the inner bark of the roots and twist it in. They're very short fibers, but because it was so strong and they didn't mold, antifungal, antibacterial in the roots. Also, it's a fish poison. This one's a fish poison. Well, it basically puts the fish to sleep. You can eat the apple almost every time you get a ripe one. They're green when they're ripe, but they're soft. There's maggots in there. That's a bonus.
High protein.
High in fats and proteins. So don't, a picky eater doesn't last long in the bush.
Yeah, like the figs have got the wasp, they've got their own wasp in there. Each fig has got its own wasp, and the wasp
That's
is in the
right.
fig.
A fig is an inside-out flower. It's the opposite of most flowers. And we've got a specific insect that pollinates it.
Yeah.
Another good plant, this is red ash. Berries are super high antioxidant. You know this? Another subtle. Yeah, this is the full-on soap tree, this one. What you'll actually get, with water you'll actually get.
An inherited legacy.
Yeah,
Really like a deformity in its growth to its actually.
studs,
Wow.
form on that. And yeah, apparently these have got more antioxidants in them than cacao or anything.
So what are you doing? You eating them before they go black?
Yeah, no, when they go black apparently, yeah. But it's called red ash because they, it looks, they're red and then it, it looks like...
You've got to go, mate, if you're eating them?
No.
A line that we've made a dish on. So its intention is to grab the water that's coming down the slope and send it along the landscape. So the water slowly absorbs into the landscape and slows the water down basically, so it doesn't just run away. So these really, this one of this size is intended for a forest really because of its size. So the idea is that it has a straight edge, and slope further. And so it's the feed tanks. So on the upside, here we can put in avocados and things that like a bit of drainage. And on the other side of the slope, where it's a bit wetter, we can put in other more tropical, super tropical things that have like a bit more moisture.
And then you're also obviously utilising it to collect water, so instead of the water running off, you've got a dam here, I take it? So?
Yeah, I do.
Got a lot of clay and really a lot of steep slopes. That geography is saying don't dig me and make swale so much, because it's not, you don't really want to be holding water there.
Yeah, that's one where you get too much water on the landscape and it becomes a bit.
You get landslides.
Like a rainforest.
Yeah, the subsoil moves off the hard bedrock.
Yeah, we can have deep-rooted trees that hold.
If you're not using it to plant trees on, then it's not going to soak up the water during the wet season as much. You know, you're going to be holding this water, the trees itself, that biology, those roots are going to be bringing it up to help the plants grow. So it's going to utilise that water a lot more than a swale with no trees on it, which ends up just being used as a ditch to slow water down.
So do you know what sort of trees would be ideal to plant into this sort of first layer on this new swale?
Along the tree plant, your herb level, you've got your shrubs, you've got your middle story and your canopy. So, I mean, in Koa, where Beth lives, it's drier than here. So if you look at those landscapes, it's more bush, they have less canopy trees. So you can replicate that, but where we live, closer down to the river, you're getting your big canopy trees in, so you replicate that, you add the much larger trees. But yeah, fruit trees that grow in the tropics, that fit into that layer system. So sweet potato, lemongrass, in the water banks, you would put taros and kangkong, Vietnamese mint, water-loving plants. There's so many options, right? Bananas, soursop, mangoes, where do you start? And you get your list of plants, and then you look at their characteristics and their growth habits, and you plug them into whatever layer. So each swale could be different. Yeah.
Got little creatures, and I've managed to find a few. I think it's an even better one just in the next log down. Inside that log, depending on the age, could be filled with, large amount of what they call sugar bag. The name for them. The name for the honey, which is, they're not like European bees in that they don't do the honeycomb, full hive thing. It's more just they don't actually make a comb as such. It's different.
Their comb as such is for the brood.
Yeah.
They have it called a moving front. But actually, it's always spherical because they're always in a hollow log. And our guy's in CFRO, and he actually was keeping them in cans, and he was keeping them in. Done a study on the size, and it's a volumetric area of like 100mm PVC pipe, 450mm long.
Yeah.
It's got a standard hollow, or 90mm I think he might even use. It's a standard hollow that you'd find in most trees, which is what they're doing. So he just used those. But there's an insulation concept there with the thickness of the timber, which regulates their temperature, which is a big thing. But they do make the comb, but it's in a sphere, and it's always moving in a sphere, and it's. I actually found one in the shopping centre up our way, and it was in an irrigation inspection thing in the ground.
Yeah.
And they were annoying people. I was thinking they're going to spray these because so I relocated it. And I took it up. It was a beautiful spherical thing, and then the outside of that spherical, you got the bags, which are like little sugar bags, like Bill said, and they're actually all full with honey pots as their stores, and you get stores of pollen and that around there as well. And out of that, I actually took up everything I could and took it away, sealed that back up, came back 6 months later, and the few bees that were there had actually re-established that hive. A year later, I came back and took it away.
So you don't need the queen bees?
I don't know quite the answer to that one, to be honest, because I normally would, if you do that with the European bee, as long as there's a small enough larvae, which is only a day or two old, they can convert that into a queen. But I actually thought I'd taken everything out of there. I thought it was fascinating. It's a citrusy type honey, and it's not a lot of it. It's really nice. They're able to pollinate flowers which are a lot smaller than some of the European bees can actually pollinate. So macadamias and orchards that can utilise them.
They seem to go on the white spectrum,
Which
native
is
bees.
what the macadamias are, which is a native, and it is interesting. There's a lot of different varieties of them. Some of them are actually native bees in Australia, some of them are solitary bees, but there's 3 or 4 different varieties of the actual natives. Down the coast there's different varieties to up here, and they actually quite often have a little tube on the outside which they actually always sort of to stop water from going in there. The tube would keep the water out of the hive, but then they've done studies up at Aurukun and they found that these tubes are this long, and they've realised that it's actually, every time they go in at night time, they actually make a little ring of the resin and gums that they collect off the plants, and that's actually keeping the green ants from going in and attacking the hive. Protection. So,
and if you want another way you can colonise it, one of our neighbours up the road, Steve, he's got a dozen hives. You can either split the hive, but if you get the little box, you can actually get a piece of polypipe and then run it into the hive, and they'll come in and out of, keep coming through the hive to get into their hive, and then you finally just split it and off you go. And they feel quite comfortable going through that little black piece of polypipe.
So they have to go through the
hive, into the polypipe, into the nest.
Yeah, it's interesting concept, putting the from a round hive to a square box. I've never felt real comfortable about, but quite often I've noticed the ones up my place, they've actually, every time they go in, they've actually created a resin that's come off them, and I don't see it here, but notice when it gets hot, that resin that heats up and it falls off. It might have been hot enough to do that because there's a little bit of a black ring and mark around there where they've obviously wiped a bit off. But being hot here, it probably doesn't get the chance to build up as it has done in my place under the shade of a tree. So they're stingless. Every time if you get up and close personally, which you can, you can see when they come out, they're bringing out a bit of poo with them, and they're bringing back, just like another bees, they've got pollen sacs on their legs, and quite often there's a breeze, you see, saying there's none there, but they're actually backing up until there's a break in the wind. All of a sudden, there'll be like 100 of them all landing at once. They don't like the cold so much. Sometimes you wonder if they're alive when it's cold, but they're just keeping that warm and keeping the whole core temperature of the hive evenly.